Snow was falling softly outside my parents' house as I pulled into the driveway, my old Honda Civic looking out of place among the luxury vehicles already parked there. My sister Victoria's Mercedes gleamed under the Christmas lights, a reminder of how different our paths had become, or so she thought. I grabbed my overnight bag from the trunk, bracing myself for the annual Christmas gathering. At 32, I was still treated like the family failure, the cautionary tale of what happens when you don't follow the prescribed path to success. Victoria opened the door before I could knock, her designer sweater and perfectly styled hair making my simple outfit feel even more inadequate. "Oh, you actually came," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Merry Christmas to you too, Vic," I replied, stepping into the warmth of our childhood home. The living room was already full of relatives, all dressed in their holiday best. Mom was arranging appetizers on silver platters while Dad chatted with Uncle James about golf club memberships. The massive Christmas tree sparkled with ornaments that probably cost more than my monthly rent, or what they thought was my rent. "Catherine," Mom called out, barely glancing my way. "You're late, and couldn't you have dressed up a little?" I looked down at my clothes. A simple black sweater and pants that actually cost more than Victoria's entire outfit, though the labels were carefully hidden. "Traffic was bad," I said, ignoring the comment about my appearance. Victoria smirked, adjusting her diamond bracelet. "Well, we have a bit of a situation with the sleeping arrangements. The guest rooms are all taken." I could see where this was going. Every year, they found some way to remind me of my supposed place in the family hierarchy. "Your cousin Amanda needs the blue room. She's pregnant, you know," Mom added, as if I couldn't possibly understand the importance of a pregnant woman's comfort. "And Victoria's boss, Mr. Harrison, and his wife are in the green room." My lips twitched slightly at the mention of Harrison. If they only knew. "So where am I sleeping?" I asked, though I already knew the answer wouldn't be pleasant. Victoria's smile turned predatory. "We cleaned out a space in the garage. There's a cot and some old blankets. That should be good enough for you." The room fell silent, relatives pretending not to listen while catching every word. This was their entertainment, watching Victoria put me in my place. "The garage." I kept my voice neutral. "In December." "Oh, don't be dramatic," Mom interjected. "There's a space heater out there. And it's not like you're not used to modest accommodations." I thought about my penthouse apartment in the city, the vacation home in the Hamptons, the private island I'd bought last summer, all carefully hidden under layers of shell companies and discrete ownership structures. "The garage is fine," I said quietly, picking up my bag. "I'm sure it's better than what most of my students have." Victoria's smile widened. She loved it when I mentioned my job teaching at the local community college. More proof, in her mind, of my failure to launch. "That's the spirit," she said, leading me to the garage door. "At least you know your place." The garage was cold, despite the small heater humming in the corner. They'd set up an old military cot between Dad's golf clubs and boxes of Christmas decorations. A thin blanket lay folded at one end, probably pulled from the back of some closet. "Dinner's at 7, Victoria said, her voice echoing in the concrete space. "Try not to track any dirt into the house when you come in." As the door closed behind her, I set my bag down and pulled out my phone. 3 urgent emails from the board needed attention before tomorrow's meeting. The same meeting where Victoria's boss would be presenting his quarterly reports, unaware that his year-end bonus depended entirely on my approval. I sat on the cot, smiling slightly as I typed out my responses. Victoria had no idea that her perfect boss, Mr. Harrison, had spent the last month desperately trying to arrange a meeting with the elusive CEO of Summit Enterprises. the parent company that had quietly acquired their firm last year. My phone buzzed with a text from my assistant. Mr. Harrison asked again about meeting you before tomorrow's board meeting. Should I tell him you're unavailable? No, I typed back. Let him think I'm still in London. It'll make dinner more interesting. I changed into fresh clothes, carefully hiding my Chanel blouse under a plain sweater. The garage was freezing, but I'd endured worse in my early days of building my empire. While Victoria had been climbing the corporate ladder, bragging about each small promotion, I'd been quietly acquiring companies, restructuring industries, and building something far bigger than anyone in my family could imagine. At precisely 7, I walked into the dining room, taking my assigned seat at the far end of the table, as far from the important guests as possible. Victoria sat near the head of the table, next to Mr. Harrison and his wife, laughing at something he'd said. "Catherine," Dad called out, "Victoria was just telling us about her latest promotion. Junior Vice President of Operations. Isn't that wonderful?" I nodded, accepting the plate of turkey being passed my way. "Congratulations, Vic. Summit Enterprises must be impressed with your work." Mr. Harrison smiled broadly. "She's one of our rising stars. The merger with Summit last year has opened up so many opportunities for talented people like Victoria." The merger, Mom sighed happily. "We were so worried when we heard Summit had bought the company, but it's turned out wonderfully. Though no one seems to know much about Summit's CEO. Very mysterious, isn't it?" Victoria leaned forward, eager to share her insider knowledge. Apparently, she's this reclusive billionaire who never appears in public. Some say she lives in London. Others think she's in Tokyo. No one at our level has ever met her. I took a sip of wine to hide my smile. If they only knew that the mysterious CEO they were gossiping about was sitting at the end of their table, banished to sleep in their garage. "I heard she's brilliant," Mr. Harrison added. "Transformed at least 12 major companies in the last 5 years. Built Summit from nothing into a global powerhouse." "Well," Victoria said dismissively, "she can't be that brilliant if she's hiding from everyone. Probably some trust fund baby who got lucky." Just then, Mr. Harrison's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face turning slightly pale. "Excuse me, I need to take this." He stepped into the hallway, but his voice carried clearly into the dining room. Yes, I have those reports ready for tomorrow's board meeting." "No, I haven't been able to reach Mrs. CEO yet." "Yes, I understand how important. She's still in London." Mr. Harrison returned to the table looking flustered, his earlier confidence diminished. Victoria, ever eager to impress, immediately launched into another story about her recent achievements. "I just restructured our entire operations department," she boasted, cutting her turkey into precise pieces. "Saved the company millions." I checked my phone under the table, pulling up the actual report from that project. Victoria had indeed made changes. Changes that had cost the company nearly $3 million in inefficiencies. I'd been watching the numbers tank for weeks, waiting for the right moment to address it. "More wine, Catherine?" Mom offered, probably hoping to keep me quiet during Victoria's moment of glory. "Though maybe you should stick to water, given your financial situation." Victoria snickered. Yes, community college teachers should really watch their spending. Mr. Harrison's phone buzzed again. This time when he checked it, his face went completely white. I need to make another call. Urgent business." As he hurried from the room, I could hear him practically begging into his phone. "Please, just 5 minutes with Mrs. CEO. The board meeting tomorrow." I'd instructed my assistant to start sending him a series of increasingly urgent messages about tomorrow's meeting. A little cruel, perhaps, but after years of watching Victoria lord her position over me, I felt entitled to some theatrical justice. Speaking of business, Uncle James chimed in. Did you all hear about Summit's latest acquisition? They just bought out Richardson Global for $12 billion. Victoria sat up straighter. Really, that's one of our biggest competitors. A hostile takeover, Aunt Margaret added. Richardson never saw it coming. This mysterious CEO, she's absolutely ruthless. I thought about the Richardson deal, remembering the late nights spent strategizing, the careful maneuvering of assets. Ruthless wasn't the word I'd use. Strategic, perhaps. Determined, definitely. Mr. Harrison returned again, looking like he might faint. Mrs. CEO is calling an emergency pre-board meeting tomorrow at 7 a.m. All department heads must attend. Victoria's fork clattered against her plate. What? But tomorrow's Christmas. She doesn't care, Mr. Harrison replied weakly. She's reviewing all recent operational changes. Victoria, bring your restructuring reports. Now seemed like the perfect moment. I cleared my throat softly. Mr. Harrison. He looked up, seemingly surprised to hear my voice from the far end of the table. Yes. The meeting's actually at 8 a.m., not 7. And Victoria won't need her reports. I've already reviewed them. The room went silent. Victoria let out a nervous laugh. What are you talking about? You don't even work for Summit. I stood up slowly, smoothing my simple sweater. Actually, I do. In fact, I am Summit. I turned to Mr. Harrison. Those reports you've been trying to get to me? I received them last week. We should discuss the Q4 projections. They're off by about 30 million. Mr. Harrison's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. You're Catherine Wilson, CEO of Summit Enterprises. Yes. I smiled, enjoying the way Victoria's face had drained of all color, though most people just call me Mrs. CEO. Mom's wine glass slipped from her fingers, spilling red across the white tablecloth. No one moved to clean it up. This is a joke, Victoria whispered. It has to be. I pulled out my phone, projecting my company ID onto the dining room wall. There it was in high definition. My photo, my title, my company. No joke, Vic. While you were climbing the corporate ladder, I built the building. But you're a teacher, Mom stammered. I teach one class per semester at the community college, I corrected her. Because I believe in education and giving back. The rest of my time is spent running one of the largest private equity firms in the world. Victoria pushed back from the table, her chair scraping against the floor. You can't be. You live in a tiny apartment. You drive a Honda. I own the building where my tiny apartment is located. As for the Honda, I shrugged. It's good for the environment. Unlike your Mercedes, which, by the way, you probably shouldn't have charged to the company account. Mr. Harrison had sunk into his chair, no doubt remembering every condescending comment he'd made in meetings about the mysterious CEO. The garage, he muttered. We made you sleep in the garage. Yes, I said quietly. You did. All of you were so busy judging me by appearances that you never bothered to look deeper. Victoria, remember last month when you denied Sarah an accounting time off for her son's surgery? Victoria nodded mutely. I approved her medical leave personally and arranged for the best specialist in the country. Because that's what real leaders do. They take care of their people. Dad finally found his voice. Why didn't you tell us? Would it have mattered? I asked, meeting his eyes. Would you have treated me any differently if I hadn't been successful on your terms? This family measures worth by brand names and bank accounts. I wanted to build something meaningful. I turned to Mr. Harrison. The board meeting tomorrow will proceed as scheduled. We'll be discussing the operational restructuring that cost us $3 million, among other things. My eyes shifted to Victoria. I suggest everyone comes prepared. You're going to fire me, Victoria whispered. No, I replied, gathering my belongings. I'm going to do what I should have done years ago, hold you accountable. Success isn't about titles or corner offices. It's about integrity, innovation, and actual results. I headed toward the garage to collect my bag. Behind me, I could hear the chaos erupting. Mom's sobs, Victoria's protests, Mr. Harrison's frantic phone calls. One more thing, I said, pausing at the door. I won't be sleeping in the garage tonight. I have a suite at the Four Seasons, which I own, by the way. Merry Christmas. As I drove away in my environmentally friendly Honda, my phone buzzed with messages from family members. Apologies, explanations, attempts to rewrite history. I ignored them all. The next morning, I sat at the head of the boardroom table in Summit's headquarters, watching as Victoria and Mr. Harrison filed in with the other executives. Gone was my sister's smug superiority, replaced by something that looked remarkably like respect. Before we begin, I announced I want to talk about company culture, about how we treat people, regardless of their title or apparent status. Because success isn't just about profits, it's about character. Victoria wouldn't meet my eyes, but I saw her taking notes for the first time in her career. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about showing people that their judgment of you never mattered in the first place. While they were busy looking down on me, I was building an empire. And as for next Christmas, I think I'll host it at my place, all 15,000 square feet of it. Let them sleep in the garage.